Imagine a world where the concept of fresh isn't the scent of soap, but the smell of dried herbs masking the musk of 1,000 unwashed days. In medieval England, a hot shower wasn't just a luxury, it was a death wish, a terrifying opening of the body's gates to the invisible killers carried on the wind. In the biting chill of a medieval English morning, the routine begins not with the roar of a faucet, but with the quiet, shivering splash of water from a simple basin. For the average citizen in 14th century London or a draughty manor in Yorkshire, the idea of submerging one's entire body in a tub of hot water is alien, even reckless. Instead, the day starts with a dry wash. You would stand by your bedside, perhaps, on a floor strewn with rushes that haven't been changed in months, and dip a piece of coarse linen into cold water to wipe your face and hands. This is the extent of the water you will likely touch today. The medical authorities of the time, shadowed by the terrifying spectre of the Black Death, preach a grim warning. Hot water opens the pores. To them, a pore is not a way for skin to breathe, but a breach in the castle walls of the body, a gap through which the miasma, the deadly, pestilential air, can enter and rot you from the inside out. Thus, a layer of grime is not seen as filth, but as a protective sealant, a shield against the plague. If you are of the aristocracy, your hygiene relies almost entirely on the purifying power of your linen undershirt. This is the great medical cheat code of the era. The belief that high-quality white linen acts as a biological sponge. The theory goes that as you sweat, the linen draws the impurities and toxins out of your pores and locks them into the fabric, effectively cleaning the body without the need for dangerous water. A nobleman might change this shirt 3 or 4 times a day, believing that the fresh, crisp fabric is scrubbing him clean, even as his skin remains untouched by soap. This belief is so pervasive that displaying the bright white edge of a linen shirt becomes a status symbol, a public declaration that you are wealthy enough to be clean without getting wet. Meanwhile, dental hygiene is a gritty, painful affair. You don't reach for a toothbrush, but for a rough linen cloth, dipped in a harsh mixture of ground salt, crushed bone, or herbs. You scour your teeth with this abrasive paste, hoping to scrape away the yellowing decay. If a tooth begins to rot, there is no gentle dentistry. The pain is blamed on a toothworm gnawing at the root, and the solution is often a pair of pliers in the hands of a barber surgeon, with no anesthesia to dull the scream. The resulting smile of the era is rarely white, often gaps-filled and always guarded. The air around you is thick, not with the scent of washed bodies, but with the heavy, cloying perfumes of musk, rosewater, and spices, applied liberally to mask the unavoidable biological reality of a population that lives, sleeps, and works in its own unchanged skin. If the lack of bathing is a quiet, personal struggle, the management of waste in medieval England is a loud, overwhelming catastrophe that assaults the senses from miles away. For a modern observer, the most shocking realization isn't the dirty faces, but the complete absence of the sanitary infrastructure we consider a basic human right. To understand this reality, you must look first at the pinnacle of luxury, the castle. Here, the bathroom is known as a garderobe, a euphemism that literally translates to wardrobe. It is little more than a stone bench with a hole, protruding precariously from the castle wall, suspended over a stagnant moat or a massive cesspit far below. There is no water to flush away the evidence. Gravity is the only mechanism at work here. In the heat of summer, the updraft from the pile accumulating at the base of the castle walls is so potent it can make your eyes water. Yet, in a bizarre twist of medieval ingenuity, This stench serves a practical purpose. You would often find the nobleman's finest velvet robes hanging inside this very toilet chamber. Why? Because the pungent ammonia fumes rising from the human waste are powerful enough to kill the fleas and moths that plague their fabrics. The toilet is, quite literally, the fumigation chamber. Step out of the castle and into the cramped, suffocating alleyways of a city like London, and the situation turns from uncomfortable to logistically terrifying. The common people do not have the luxury of a moat. They rely on communal latrines or simple wooden buckets that are emptied into fast-filling backyard pits or, all too often, the open gutter. This city is a living organism that produces more filth than it can consume, and it relies on a shadowy class of men to keep it from drowning. These are the Gong Farmers. They are the unsung, tragic heroes of medieval sanitation, bound by law to work only under the cover of darkness, so that the polite society is spared the sight and smell of their labour. Their job is the stuff of nightmares. They descend into the suffocating blackness of the cesspits, often wading waist-deep in human excrement to shovel out the city's waste by hand. It is a lethal profession. The fumes in these enclosed, rotting spaces can be concentrated enough to kill a man instantly, suffocating him in the very filth he is trying to remove. Above ground, the battle is fought with strict laws that are almost universally ignored. While muckrakers are employed to scrape the streets, they are fighting a losing war against a tide of debris. The true street cleaners are the pigs, animals that roam freely through the towns, acting as living garbage disposals that eat the refuse and food scraps thrown from windows. But while they solve the food waste problem, they leave behind their own droppings, adding to the layer of muck that coats the cobblestones. The result is an atmospheric cocktail so potent that travellers describe the smell of a medieval city as a physical blow. It is a mix of rotting straw, animal waste, and the sharp chemical bite of the tanners, who collect urine and dog feces to cure leather in open vats. In this era, you don't just see the city, you inhale it. The final piece of this gritty puzzle answers the question that plagues every modern mind when looking back at history. Without toilet paper, what happens when the deed is done? The answer reveals a reality that is as harsh as it is abrasive. In a world before soft tissue, the act of cleaning oneself is a tactile negotiation with nature. If you are wealthy, you might be lucky enough to use soft wool or scraps of linen, sacrificing fabric for comfort. But for the vast majority of the population, the peasant in the field or the tradesman in the town, the solution lies in whatever is within arm's reach. Moss, broadleaves, hay and straw are the standard tools of the trade. It is a cleaning experience that is simultaneously scratching and hygienically questionable, often leaving behind as many problems as it removes. The Romans once used a sponge on a stick soaked in vinegar, but even that modest technology has been lost to time, replaced by these cruder, more painful methods. This lack of proper sanitation creates a biological feedback loop that defines the human condition of the era. Because hands are rarely sterilized and wiping is ineffective, the population lives in a constant cycle of reinfection with intestinal parasites. It is a grim fact of life that almost every adult you meet, from the blacksmith to the bishop, is carrying worms. These are the silent passengers of the Middle Ages, unseen organisms that live within the gut, consuming a portion of the hard-earned caloric intake that the peasant has laboured all day to secure. It is a parasitic tax on the body, draining energy in a world where food is already scarce. Yet, to judge these people solely by their filth is to miss the extraordinary resilience that defines them. We must look at them not with disgust, but with a sense of awe. Their immune systems are forged in a fire of constant exposure capable of withstanding bacterial loads that would likely hospitalize a modern human within days. They are not indifferent to their suffering. They fight back with the only weapons they have: a deep knowledge of herbal medicine and natural disinfectants like vinegar and alcohol. They are not dirty by choice. They are constrained by the hard technological limits of their time. When we look back at the shadowed cathedral cities of medieval England, we shouldn't just see the lack of showers or the moss used in place of paper. We should see the immense effort it took to carve out a civilization and maintain dignity in the face of biological chaos. The history of their hygiene is not a story of laziness. It is the history of a desperate, intense battle against their own biology. A battle for survival where cleanliness was the ultimate luxury, bought with the hardest labor imaginable.